Hello everyone, welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian. I will be teaching you some strategies and giving you some examples for the IELTS speaking section today. As usual, our materials are coming from our websites. For academic IELTS, please check us out at aehelp.com. We have lots and lots of materials there for you. And for general IELTS, please check us out at gieltshelp.com. We're maybe the only company in the world that separates the general and academic modules completely because we feel that these are different groups of people. One is learning IELTS to study for university or work, and the other is studying IELTS to move to another country or get a visa. So if, again, you're studying for academic IELTS, visit us at ahelp.com. For general IELTS, gieltshelp.com. Again, today, some IELTS speaking examples with answers, and I'll teach you some strategies. Hi, Baljeet. Nice to see you in here. Hi, Daljinder. Hi, Navpreet. We're setting a new schedule, so a quick shout out to our sponsors. If you have some IELTS topics in mind or some questions, please do send me an email at my email address to request for special classes. My email is adrian@aehelp.com. Hi, everyone who's joining in right now. All right, so tomorrow I will set the new schedule for July's IELTS live classes, and today we're going to get cracking with some IELTS speaking. Now, of course, you're all watching me from home or wherever you're at. Make sure that for today's class you repeat as much as you can what I say, okay, and repeat nice and loud. This is a speaking class. I can't hear you, but I'd like to imagine that you're repeating after me. Hi, Eugene. Hi, Baljot. Nice to see you in class. Hi, Avtar Singh. All right, so the speaking section of the IELTS exam takes about 12 to 15 minutes. It's a private interview. You're in a room with a native speaking English IELTS expert who is there to assess your speaking skills. The speaking section of the IELTS exam is usually done separate from the written portion, sometimes a day before or in some cases a day after. Now, of course, it's really important that you practice for the speaking section to get comfortable, become confident, so that you can do well and show your true speaking skills. All right, so when you're going into the speaking exam and you're getting ready for these questions, there's a very important strategy to keep in mind. Okay? A lot of times students are curious about how they should answer these questions. Should they keep talking until the examiner stops them and asks them the next question, or should they just give a nice quick answer and then wait for the next question? So what should you actually do, okay? Is it the same as speaking with an English speaker on the street? The answer is no, okay? Real life communication, daily communication is often truncated. It means it's shortened, it's kept simple, but on the IELTS, that's not enough to show your level. So you need to do a little bit more. You need to think about the IELTS interview as if you're kind of doing like a job interview where you're being very expressive, okay? I'm very happy, Baljeet, that you were not nervous during speaking. Being very nervous for the speaking is not a good idea, okay? So remember this strategy. For questions, follow this rule, okay? Answer, explain, give a personal example, and stop. Okay, so that's what we're going to practice today, along with another very important strategy, which is reflecting the grammar of the questions. Okay, so always reflect the grammar of the questions. If it's present perfect, answer in present perfect. If it's conditional, use a conditional in your answer. So always reflect the grammar of the question. So for example, if the question is present perfect, then answer in present perfect. If it's conditional, answer conditional. Okay, I'll give you a couple of examples with our questions here that we're using today. And then I'll give it out to you to try to answer some of these. All right? Hi, Maria Jabbar. Nice to see you join as well. So again, we're focusing on these two strategies today for speaking. So when there's a question, you want to give your answer, explain your reason or your answer, and then give a personal example, and then stop, okay? As much as possible, you want to follow this structure. So you get into the IELTS, and the examiner will say, welcome to the speaking portion of the IELTS exam. My name is Adrian. I will be your examiner for this part of the test. May I see your identification, please? Make sure you have your identification with you, either your passport or your national ID card. And then say, yes, sure, here you are. Okay? Give it to the examiner. They'll take a look at it, and then they'll say, can I ask your full name, please? And then you can say, my full name is Adrian Benedict. Please just call me Adrian. If you don't say, please just call me Adrian, they will ask you, what should I call you? And then you can say, please just call me Adrian, but it's better to preempt that question, okay? So do it on your own. Hi, Manisha. Good to see you in class as well. So then the examiner will say, okay, the speaking test has 3 parts. I will give you instructions for each part. For part 1, I'd like to get to know you a little bit better and ask you some questions on a general topic. Now, speaking and listening are the same for academic and general IELTS. And then they might ask you a question such as, do you own any pets? Okay, and then you could answer something and repeat after me, girls and guys, okay? So, do you own any pets? Yes, I have a black Labrador, and his name is Sparky. I just took him for a walk before coming to this interview, okay? So this is a nice answer to the question, do you own any pets? If you don't own any pets, you can say, no, I don't have any pets, but I wish I had a dog because I've loved dogs ever since I was a young child. If I could have a dog, I might buy a golden retriever, okay? So this is my answer. Do you have any pets? Yes, I have a black Labrador, and his name is Sparky. I just took him for a walk before coming to this interview. And then the examiner will say, okay, what is the benefit of having a dog or having a pet? And then you could answer something like, well, there are definitely some positive aspects to having pets. In my case, I go for regular walks with Sparky, and this helps me to stay in shape. Okay, so here I'm showing you kind of the length of the answer that you need to reply. Sometimes I've seen students talk a little bit too much, and often when students keep talking and talking, what they do is they repeat what they've already said, and they also start making mistakes. So it's not a good idea. So know the length of your answers, okay? Well, there are definitely some positive aspects to having pets. So I'm answering the question, I'm using the grammar. In my case, I go for regular walks with Sparky, and this helps me to stay in shape. Okay, I'm using a nice expression, stay in shape, and I'm giving a good explanation to my answer with a personal example. Okay, so this is what you have to practice. Okay, girls and guys, just repeat after me. What is the benefit of having a pet? Well, there are definitely some positive aspects to having pets. In my case, I go for regular walks with Sparky, and this helps me to stay in shape. Okay? You don't need to list 4, 5, 6 different points. 1 or 2 points is enough. Okay? Sometimes what students do is they keep talking about different points, so they say something like, well, there are some good parts of having pets. It's good for exercise. It's good for company. If it's a dog, it can protect you. These are many good aspects of having pets. Not a terrible answer, but it's not as good as this one because it lacks detail. It lacks depth. It's a little bit awkward, okay? This is a much, much better answer to give for that kind of a question. All right, girls and guys. So then the examiner will say, let's continue on. Let's talk about the home. Where did you grow up? Okay. Can you try to give me an answer for this question? Where did you grow up? So give me a good answer for this question where you give an answer, you explain it, maybe an example, and then you stop. I'm not in a hurry, Manisha. Thanks for your question. My goal here today is to really get into the practice of these 2 strategies. I've been interviewing some students for IELTS speaking over the past couple of weeks, and with most students, I find that one of the critical difficulties with answers is that they're not giving a good answer, explanation, and example. They tend to give an answer, kind of an explanation, too many different details, and repetition. So what I want to focus on today are these 2 strategies, reflecting the grammar of questions and following this strategy of answering, explaining, and giving an example. So I want to have lots of time in today's class to do that. All right. So Baljit says, I was born and raised in the village of Napur. It's 15 miles away from which city, Baljit? And why did you grow up in that city? So try to answer that in more detail, Baljit. In my opinion, your answer could be better if you said something like, I was born in the village of Napur, which is 15 miles away from the name of the city. The reason I grew up there is because my mom and dad both had jobs at the local hospital. Okay, so give me a little bit of an explanation. It'd be good to include what type of building you grew up. I was born and raised in a village in Napur. I lived in a house with 3 bedrooms. Okay, so a little bit more detail. Sanim says, actually, I was born in Tagimrang village where there is a small population, but it's very beautiful. A little bit more, Sanim. Why did you grow up there? What did you enjoy about growing up there? Okay. Mohammed says, Mohammed Wahab, I was born and brought up in Hiberdad. It is the capital of Telangana, and it is also called as the city of Nizams. I grew up there because my family has been there for generations, and both my father and mother were raised, educated there, and work there every day. Okay, so something a little bit more. Baljat Singh says, well, I spent my whole childhood in my current hometown, Urupar, which is approximately 15 kilometers away from Navanshar. It's the best place for me, and I will settle. And if I will settle in another city, then I will definitely not forget it. All right, that's pretty good, Baljat. You're giving me lots of nice description and detail there. Manisha says, I grew up in the city of Kapurthal as it is where our ancestral house is located, and I'm currently living here as well. Manisha, careful with your tense. Your ancestral house is still there. So not was there, but is there, okay? All right, so those are some good answers. I grew up in the city of Victoria, which is the capital of the province of British Columbia. The reason I lived there most of my life is because my parents moved there for work when I was 10 years old. Okay? I grew up in a nice family home. All right? So that's plenty. Don't go beyond that. So just repeat after me. It's kind of a similar answer to what some of you gave, which is great. Okay? Repeat after me. Where did you grow up? I grew up in the city of Victoria, which is the capital of the province of British Columbia. The reason I lived there most of my life is because my parents moved there for work when I was 10 years old. I grew up in a nice family home. All right? It's descriptive, it's visual, it combines some nice grammar. Here you have an adjective clause. Here you have a complex sentence using cause and effect, subordinating conjunction. The tenses are correct. Grew up, okay? So using the past tense when necessary. And definitely you will get some good high scores when you answer in this way. All right, let's go to the next one. So, do you live in a house or in an apartment? Okay, now notice the next question. What type of home do you prefer, house or apartment? Why? If you're clever, then do you live in a house or an apartment? Already here, you're thinking of the why question. So you should always think that there's this kind of hidden why question that is included with these questions, even if they don't ask you. So you should answer that. Okay? So again, try to give me a nice answer with an explanation and maybe a personal example. So did you live in a house or an apartment? And notice it's past tense. So again, reflect the grammar of the question. Past tense, use past tense. Okay? All right, let's see what you girls and guys come up with. By the way, very good participation so far. I really enjoy how there's a lot of different answers coming up. That's great. Okay. Ekampreet, send me an email with that question and I'll help you out. Okay. My email is at the beginning of the video. Ishpreet Singh says, I live in a house with my parents. It's quite big and we have a plethora of rooms to share. Ishpreet, that's great. I would include something like why you like it. I enjoy that it's spacious and I can have privacy when I need it. Okay. Manisha says, I have been living in a beautiful terraced house for the last 22 years with my family. Although it's not very spacious, it's just the right fit. Very good, Manisha. Good use of quantitative language. So when you include for the last 22 years, that's very nice quantitative language. It gives value to your communication and makes it more powerful, okay? Baljit, think a little bit more about how you can expand on that. Savan says, well, I'm in a house which is quite comfortable for me. Savan, way too short. Why? Why is it comfortable for you? What's the house like? Give me a little bit more. Xinghu Zhang says, I was born in a small village located in the south of China. It's a beautiful, it's a peaceful and quiet place where I spent most of my childhood before going to my university. It's good English, Xinghu, but you'll get a bad score because the question is asking, did you live in a house or an apartment? And you didn't answer the question, so you get no points. In fact, you get minus points or you lose points because it seems that you didn't understand the question, okay? You have to answer the question, all right? Sudipta Das says, I lived in my house for 20 years in my native city of Kolkata and enjoyed spending a good time with my parents and cousins. Again, a little bit off topic. It's more about the house or the apartment, this question. The previous question was already asking you about where, so you don't want to answer that again. Mohammed Wahab says, previously I used to live in a house along with extended family, but now all the family is not together as most of my family migrated. Hence, we are now forced to live in an apartment. I don't like it as much because it has less space. That would be a good answer, okay? That's a good answer, Mohammed. Maria says, Maria Jabbar, I used to live in an apartment in the middle of the city. It was easy for commuting both for college and university. I could get to school in under 30 minutes. Give me a little bit of quantitative language there, Maria, and it will be that much better, okay? Present perfect, Manisha, in your answer there is okay because present perfect can substitute for past tense. Just make sure you pay attention to that. Okay, so here's my answer. You'll find it somewhat similar to yours. I used to live in a house for most of my life because I have two brothers and my family needed the space. Our home had 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. We liked our home because it was comfortable and conveniently located in Victoria. Okay. So that is a good answer there. It's somewhat similar to your answers. I used to live in a house for most of my life because I have 2 brothers and my family needed the space. Our home had 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. We liked our home because it was comfortable and conveniently located in Victoria. You don't have to say where you live today because it's asking you in the past. If you want to include, however, now I live in an apartment while going to school, that's okay, all right? Again, repeat after me, girls and guys. Nice and loud. Be confident. The IELTS examiners don't personally care about you. They're there to do their job. You're there to do your job. Just be confident. Be comfortable. Repeat after me, nice and loud. Did you live in a house or an apartment? I used to live in a house for most of my life because I have 2 brothers and my family needed the space. Our home had 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. We liked our home because it was comfortable and conveniently located in Victoria. Okay? All right. Let's go to the next question. What type of home do you prefer? House or apartment? Okay, so here you can definitely give me an answer, explanation, and example. So give me that nice answer of reflecting the grammar, including the explanation, and including a personal example, okay? So be clear, don't sit on the fence. That means don't say, well, both are good. House and apartment has advantage and disadvantage. That's not a good answer. I want you to choose one side, stay with one side, and give me the reason why you prefer it, and give me an example to represent that, okay? So Hisped Depeche says, to be honest, I'm into living in a house as I was born and raised in a home. That being said, living in an apartment can be good too. Hisped, nah, I'd take out that last little bit. The living in an apartment can be good too. You're sitting on the fence. It's like, okay, you didn't really answer my question. You just kind of said both are good. Stay with your first answer, okay? So instead of that last part, Hisped, change it. So as I was born and raised in a house. For instance, my brothers and I always enjoyed playing in the yard. It was safe and secure, surrounded by a big fence. We had nice green grass, and that was very enjoyable. This is something that people can't do living in an apartment. Okay, Hisped? So something like that. Okay. Minoxi Solanki says, I prefer a house because it provides space and peace, which is not possible living in a flat. For instance, right now I'm studying for IELTS and I have my own room, which gives me a lot of quiet, and this way I can really enhance my English skills. That would be your example of how it gives you that privacy and that extra space, okay? Baljot Singh says, If I had to pick one, I would say definitely a house instead of an apartment. Because I experience both lifestyles and I always feel more comfortable in a spacious, detached home. Okay, and then give me some details there. Mohit says, I prefer an apartment because it's kind of peaceful in society and has lots of facilities which normal homes don't include. For instance, my apartment building right now has a swimming pool and a jacuzzi. Last night, when I was really stressed getting ready for today's interview, I went down, swam in the pool, and sat in the jacuzzi for 15 minutes. It helped me to chill out. Okay, that would be a really good answer. You're right. Apartments do have extra facilities like gyms or pools or hot tubs. Give an example. Use that. Okay. All right, one more. Mohammed Wahab says, although I love staying in a house independently, unfortunately, my nuclear family's security reasons, I prefer staying in an apartment with all community members. Awkward, Mohammed, confusing, unclear, some grammar mistakes there. You want to revise that, okay? Write out what you put in the chat and figure out how to make that a much better answer. Oh, I definitely prefer to live in a house rather than a flat because it is more spacious and has a garden. Okay. I love to sit on my lawn and read books. These days, I am studying for IELTS while enjoying the sun on the patio. This is not possible in living in an apartment building. Okay, so that would be a good answer, all right? So just repeat after me again, nice and loud. So what type of home do you prefer, house or apartment? Why? Oh, I definitely prefer to live in a house rather than a flat because it is more spacious and has a garden. I love to sit on my lawn and read books. These days, I'm studying for IELTS while enjoying the sun on the patio. This is not possible living in an apartment building. Okay? So something like that. Again, answer, explanation, and specific example. Okay? When you're able to do that, your score is going up. So try to include those elements as much as possible. All right. I'll leave the two other questions to you to do later when you have some time. Let's move on to part 2. Okay? So the examiner will say, okay, that is the end of part 1. Now we will continue with part 2. For part 2, I'm going to give you a card with some questions on it. Here is some note paper and a pencil. You will have 1 minute to look at the questions, prepare your answer, take some notes if you wish. After the 1 minute, you will have 2 minutes to speak. I will tell you when to start and when to stop. Are you ready? And then you say, yes, I'm absolutely ready. The person will say, okay, turn over the card. Your 1 minute preparation time begins now. So you have 1 minute preparation time. You turn over the card, and this is what you see. So you see these questions. Describe a positive childhood memory. You should say when it happened, where it took place, why this is a positive memory for you. You will have 1 to 2 minutes to talk about this topic. You will have 1 minute to prepare what you're going to say. Okay, so in your 1 minute preparation time, what's your first step? Okay? What is your first step that you should take in this 1 minute where you need to prepare your thoughts, organize them, and maybe write down some notes? Okay? What do you need to do? What should you focus on? Visualization, Manisha, is a good tip. You definitely want to picture that childhood memory. You want to see it unfold in your mind's eye. So read the card, start visualizing, start creating pictures. As you're doing that, what do you need to think about? Gurpreet Singh says, think about the tense. So am I using present, past, future tense for this question? What do I need to do? Absolutely, and you should realize that you will be using lots of past progressive, present perfect, maybe past perfect, because you're talking about a memory, right? So step number 1 is identify which category you're answering, okay? So identify what group of question you are answering. On the IELTS, you basically will have a question from one of 4 groups. Okay? It will be people, place, object, or event. Okay? So in this case, for our example, what is it? What kind of group are we answering here? Are we talking about people for this 2 minutes? Are we talking about a place? Are we talking about an object? Or are we talking about an event? What are we doing? Absolutely. Very good, Baljit, Manisha, Mohammed, Safa, Sanim, Litton, Danilo, Deepa. Very, very good. So you've identified that, hey, okay, this is an event, all right? That should be your step number 1, okay? So this is an event. Therefore, what do you need to talk about? So even without looking at the card, when it was, who was there, what happened, okay? So these are the important points you'll need to include when discussing an event, regardless of the questions. So even without thinking of the questions, if you realize that, hey, okay, I have an event here, when was it, who was there, what happened, okay? So you need to think about those points very clearly in the 1 minute preparation time. And then you want to visualize, right? Okay, so visualize. In fact, I'm going to move that to step 3. You're kind of visualizing throughout, but for step 2, identify the topic. And controlling idea. Okay, so again, you need to do this for speaking part 2, just like you need to do it for the task 2 writing. So identify the topic and the controlling idea. So in this example that we have here, the topic is, what is it, girls and guys? It should be easy. What's the topic? Anybody? And then we'll get to answering the question. So we'll get to our response here in a second, but you need to build up to it, all right? So the topic is a childhood memory. Yeah. Okay. What's the controlling idea? Anybody? What's the controlling idea here? So what is the controlling idea for this cue card? Yeah, it's the positive event. Absolutely, Hesped Prosofa. So that's the key here, is positive memory and details. Okay, so that's very important. I've used this question before with students. They start talking about a childhood memory. They completely forget that it needs to be a positive memory. They talk about how they broke their leg when they were riding their bicycle. Guess what? If you give me an answer where you're telling me about how you broke your leg when you were 10 years old as a child riding the bicycle, unless in some strange way you can spin that into a positive experience, which is unlikely, your score on the IELTS would dive. It would really, really go down because you're missing the controlling idea. So you have to choose a positive memory from your childhood, okay? So if it's not positive, your score's not good, all right? So pay attention to those controlling ideas. It's very, very important. And then visualize. So pick your answer and visualize, okay? So what would be a good childhood memory? What would be some good topics for a childhood memory? You need to choose it quickly so you can think about the details. For speaking part 2, again, it's very important to go into lots of details with good examples. So what is a common positive childhood memory? Mohit, picnic would be a good one, absolutely. So here, let's have some ideas. So example answers. Picnic, sure. What else would be a good one? A birthday would be a good one, absolutely. A birthday party would be a good one. What else? Parents' Day, Saneem, I think would be a little bit difficult. A wedding, Bubby, if you went to a wedding as a child, that would be good. Learning to swim, Deepa, would be a good one as well. Okay, so I wouldn't just go with swimming, but I would go as far as learning to swim. Gurpreet, first toy, not so good. I don't think most kids can actually recall their first toy, so I wouldn't choose that one. Winning a competition in school, yeah, winning a race or competition in school. Yeah, that would be a really good one as well, absolutely. What else would be? Learning to play chess, so learning to play something, learning to ride a bicycle, Baljit, would be a really good one. Getting a really good score in your exams would be so-so, Esprit, I think, all right? Maybe going to a theme park. Okay, would also be a good one. So a lot of children dream about going to a theme park, so that could be a really good one as well. Just make sure that you are confident that you can speak about what you did at the theme park. Okay, so I think if I had to choose, if somebody said, okay, Adrian, you have to choose, which one of these do you think is the best one to go with? I would say that the winner out of this list for me is learning to swim. I think learning to swim is a very, very good choice to answer this question, okay? Dance competition would be okay too, Avtar. So let's pick one. Let's stick with it as a group. We can't do all of them. You can try them at home, these different ones. Even send them to me by email. I'll give you my opinion. But let's choose learning to swim. So let's talk about learning to swim. Okay? So everybody focus on this topic of learning to swim, and let's write down what a good response would be for the 2 minutes of speaking, okay? Now, you would want to take some simple notes here, okay? So, focus is on learning to swim. Okay, so girls and guys, give me a nice opening sentence to start your 2-minute response. The IELTS examiner will say, okay, your 1 minute preparation time is up. Please begin speaking. And now you've figured, okay, I'm going to talk about when I learned how to swim. And now you start with that. So open it up. What's a good opening statement to answer these questions. Describe a positive childhood memory. Okay? What's a good first sentence? Just like as if you're speaking. Okay? Gurpreet, first day in learning class of swimming is not a good way to start. That's an awkward way to start. When I was in grade 5, Deepa, I think you're jumping ahead. I think you need to focus on just answering the very first part of the card. Show the examiner that you have a very clear understanding of the topic and the controlling idea. Okay? So, Ishpreet says, I would like to share one of my most positive memories when I learned swimming. Yeah, include childhood into that, Ishpreet. So I would like to share one of my most positive memories from when I was a kid, which is when I learned to swim. I don't care about your plethora of memories, Yagdeep, not to be rude, but I want you to just focus on one. Kira, again, you're not writing an essay here, so childhood is a period of positive memories. I don't know about that. Some children have pretty tough childhoods. I want you to just focus on this. Deepa says, I'm going to talk about my childhood memory when I was in grade 5. Yeah, that's okay. That's not bad. You're kind of targeting there. Say positive memory, Deepa. Okay? Hispit says, well, talking about my favorite childhood memory, it had to be probably the memory attached to when I learned to swim. That was pretty good. I like that one. Okay, I like your natural filler there as well. Rodayana says, I'm going to talk about the best childhood memory I had when I was in primary school, which is when I learned how to swim. Good. Rodina, that's a good way to start it off as well. Okay. The goal in part 2 is just get right into it. Okay. So don't paint the picture. I've even heard students do things like, thank you for this opportunity to let me speak for 2 minutes. Please don't do that, okay? That's a waste of time. It's the IELTS exam. Of course you need to speak for 2 minutes. Don't thank me for it. Just give me the answer. Well, definitely one of my best childhood experiences is when I learned how to swim. Okay, so right away, I'm showing that I understand the controlling idea. Okay, it's one of my best experiences. I'm showing that I understand the topic, that it's childhood memories, and I'm already creating a complex sentence. One of my best childhood experiences is when I learned how to swim. I'm a water baby, and I love to spend time in swimming pools, lakes, and the sea. Okay? So right away, I'm throwing out there that I really enjoy water. Okay? So obviously, this memory is very important for me. Okay? And then you can get into when it happened, right? So if I remember correctly, I had just turned 5 years old when my parents decided it was time for me to learn swimming. Okay? So again, some nice natural language, throwing in a conditional. If I remember correctly, I had just turned 5 years old when my parents decided it was time for me to learn swimming. So, and here I'll let you continue, okay? So give me some sentences to continue from here. A nice way to continue this part, all right? Well, one of my best childhood experiences is when I learned how to swim. I'm a water baby and I love to spend time in swimming pools, lakes, and the sea. If I remember correctly, I just turned 5 years old when my parents decided it was time for me to learn swimming. So what? What would be a good way to continue? If If you get stuck, look at the card. When did it happen? Where it took place? Why this is a positive memory for you? Okay? So lots of information to talk about there. So, what's a good way to continue? So my parents, good Mohit, that's kind of what I was thinking about as well. So my parents registered me for swimming classes at the local pool. Okay? So my parents registered, not admit. You don't admit a child into swimming classes. You register them or sign them up for swimming classes at the local pool. Yeah, absolutely. So my parents registered me for swimming classes at our local pool. Yeah, enrolled me, Mahendra, is good as well. Enrolled me in swimming classes at our local pool. Absolutely. Okay. Kishore, you have a question there, how to write in the cue card. You don't write in the cue card. You have a piece of paper and pencil for taking notes. Okay. Baljat's taking a different direction. He said, I had a swimming pool in my home and my parents hired a swimming teacher for me and my 2 siblings. That's a good one as well. I like it. So, my parents hired a private swimming instructor to teach me and my 2 siblings using our own pool in our backyard. Okay, sure. Let's take a little bit of a different approach there. But registering for swimming classes is great as well. All right, what do you do next? What do you do next? So what should you write about next? What comes after this? All right. Yeah, Poluri, you can absolutely make up a story. It does not have to be real. It can be completely imaginative. If no positive, true childhood memory comes to mind and you make this one up as you go along, absolutely. In fact, sometimes made-up stories will get better scores because they're a little bit easier sometimes than recalling the details of 10, 20 years ago. All right? So give me some sentences to follow this line. So my parents hired a private swimming instructor to teach me and my 2 siblings using our own pool in our backyard. All right? We started swimming classes at 8 in the morning. Yeah, absolutely. That's a good one, Deepa. Yep, so get into the actual experience. So Deepa, you're on the right track. What you want to do now is you want to get into a lot of details describing the experience of learning how to swim, right? So give me a moment here. There's my daughter. My camera seems to have a snoozing problem these days. One moment. Keep thinking about how to continue that sentence. Okay? All right. So, getting into details, quantitative and qualitative language. Okay? All right. Yes, it's my wallpaper, so that's why you keep seeing that cute baby if my camera falls asleep. All right, so my parents hired a private swimming instructor to teach me and my 2 siblings using our own pool in the backyard. We had a great swimming teacher. His name is Greg. Let's call him just Greg, all right? He would show up at 8 in the morning and stay for 2 hours teaching us all of the important parts of swimming. Okay, sure. So, 8 o'clock in the morning. All right, let's see what else you came up with. Okay? Keep getting into details. His name is, because hopefully he's still alive, Prosafa. So, If Greg has passed away, then it would be was. But if Greg is still alive today, then his name is still Greg. Unlikely that he changed it. Okay, that's a good question. Sometimes students don't know what the correct tense is there, and even native speakers make the mistake of saying was when it should be is. Okay. Yeah, Ezra, nice expression there. So I remember it like as if it were yesterday. I remember his classes as if it were yesterday. The beginning was very difficult. I swallowed lots of water and kept sinking in the pool. Okay, sure. So you can get into lots of nice descriptive visual details here, right? And this is where Manisha and some of our sponsors and some of the other students in the beginning said that you need to visualize, and that's a very good piece of advice. So just imagine yourself or a small 6-7-year-old child learning to swim. In the beginning, it's tricky, right? You're drinking all this water, you're splashing around, you're having difficulty, it's quite uncomfortable, it's quite awkward. But when you first start to kick and move forward in the water and float, it becomes an amazing experience, right? So that's what we need to discuss and describe. So Baljot says, I faced a plethora of pitfalls because of the deep water and my inability to swim or float. Yeah, absolutely. So that's something similar, Baljot. Pitfalls would be difficulties or challenges, okay? However, because Greg was an excellent teacher, it only took me a few days to master not only floating, but also moving forward. Okay? This was an amazing feeling. And I was very proud of myself. All right? So just moving along now, nice and smooth, okay? So let's see how far we've gotten. Now, we've answered some of the questions here so far, and what should you do at this point? So let's say you're talking for about a minute. You've given all this information. What should you remember to do during your 2 minutes in this part of the IELTS? So what should you do at about this stage in your response? Isprit says, although it was pretty awkward in my initial few steps, Greg helped me to get over it. That's good, Isprit. I like it. Yeah, Jod, I think that's also a good piece of information that you could add in there. Okay, so Ispet says, create a story. Back to my notes. Lytton, very good. Absolutely. That's what I wanted to remind students of. I see this mistake all the time with students. They write down some good notes, and they have that cue card. They start talking when the 2 minutes starts, and then for the whole 2 minutes, the student does not look at the questions and does not look at the notes. That's a bad idea, okay? It's absolutely okay, and it's a good idea in this part of the speaking in IELTS to use your notes, stop for a couple of seconds. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 5 seconds. It's okay to stop for 5 seconds in the 2 minutes. Remember, 2 minutes is 120 seconds, so 5 seconds is not much from 120 seconds. Stop for 5 seconds, think about what you just said, look at your notes, look at the cue card, make sure you're not missing any questions, and then continue talking, okay? So this would be a good place to do that. Okay, reference the card. And your notes, All right. Don't forget to do that. Please, girls and guys, don't forget to do that. I've actually seen students get in a situation where the examiner says, okay, your 2 minutes is up, and then they stop talking, and then they look at the question card as they're giving it back to the instructor, and they go, oh no, I forgot to answer that question. And then the instructor will say, oh, that's okay, we're going to continue with part 3. They don't give you another chance to finish. So if you realize that you missed a question when you're giving the card back to the instructor, it's too late, okay? You want to check the card after about a minute of speaking. Make sure that you're on track and make sure that you're answering all of those questions, all right? It's very important. So here we go. Let's do a little bit of review, what we said so far. Just repeat after me. Again, nice and loud. Repeat after me. Well, definitely one of my best childhood experiences is when I learned how to swim. I'm a water baby and I love to spend time in swimming pools, lakes, and the sea. If I remember correctly, I had just turned 5 years old when my parents decided it was time for me to learn swimming. So, my mom and dad hired a private swimming instructor to teach me and my 2 siblings using our own pool in our backyard. We had a great swimming teacher. His name is Greg. He would show up at 8 in the morning and stay for 2 hours teaching us all the important skills for swimming. I remember his classes as if it were yesterday. The beginning was very difficult. I swallowed lots of water and kept sinking in the pool. However, because Greg was an excellent teacher, it only took me a few days to master not only floating but also moving forward. This was an amazing feeling and I was really proud of myself. Okay, now I look at my notes. Okay, what do my notes say? When it happened, where it took place, why this is a positive memory for you. Okay, so let's get into some more details. Now, if I just did that in the IELTS, this is what I would do here. Definitely, this is one of the most positive events and memories of my childhood because I fell in love with swimming. In fact, I joined a swimming club soon after and became competitive for the next 15 years. Greg eventually became my private coach and helped me win 2 city and 1 national gold medal in the 100-meter front crawl. Okay, so here I'm just moving along now because I have a clear idea of what I'm doing. I looked at the card and I realized that I have to give a very good explanation for why this is such a positive memory from my childhood. And as some of you already suggested, well, hey, let's imagine and let's talk about maybe we fell in love with swimming and became athletic swimmers pursuant of this childhood event. So that's what I'm exploring here. And I'm just kind of making it up, okay? Competitive, to answer your question, is to take part in competition, okay? So you compete in swimming, all right? Okay, girls and guys, so that is a solid answer for that question. Again, if you have time left over, look back at the card. Am I missing anything? Did I talk about when it happened? Yes. Did I talk about where it took place? Yes, at my home in the swimming pool. Okay, did I talk about why this is a positive memory for me? Yes, I did. So now I'm done. Do I need to keep talking or keep repeating information if I have 10, 15 seconds left? No, I don't. I can just stop there. I'm confident, comfortable. Now wait for the instructor to say, okay, that is the end of part 2. Now we will continue with part 3. For part 3, I'm going to ask you some more questions on a related topic, okay? Part 3 is always connected to part 2 in some way. Deepa, you're asking me if you only talk for 1 minute 20 seconds, is that enough? As long as you answer all the questions clearly, give enough detail, it can be, absolutely. So talking for 90 seconds, if you've answered everything with detail, with good information, it's enough to get a nice high score, okay? You don't have to keep talking. All right? There we go. Okay, so then you continue with part 3. Now for part 3, you need to focus even more on strategy 1 and 2 that we discussed for part 1. So remember what those strategies are? So what's the first strategy that I showed you at the beginning of class for part 1? What do you need to focus on? What do you have to do? Let's see how well you're paying attention and remembering these tips. So what is the first strategy? What is something that you should follow with each of these questions? What do you need to do? It's med-dol with a D. Okay? What was that first tip? Okay, so those students who are watching the class from the beginning, what was strategy number 1? What do you need to do for each of these questions? All right, let's see how many of you remember. It's not definition. It's right, you're right, Hispet, it's something to do with detail, not the tense. Okay. That's right, Pachu. That's the correct one. Answer, explain, and example. Okay, you really need to focus on that. So answer, explain, example. And what was the second strategy? So what is the second really important part that you need to follow for each of these questions? So strategy 1, give me the answer, explain it, give me an example. What is it for strategy 2? What do you need to do? If you don't remember these, your score will go down in the IELTS, or another way, your score will not be as high as it can be if you follow these 2. Not just necessarily the tense, Sanim. You're not just paying attention to the tense. It's a little bit more than that. It's the grammar, okay? So let me show you that one more time, all right? One more time. Strategy 1, when you're answering questions, you have to follow this rule. Answer, explain, give an example, and stop, okay? Strategy 2, always reflect the grammar of the question, not just the tense. If the question's present perfect, answer in present perfect. If it's conditional, use a conditional. If it requires an adjective clause, use an adjective clause, okay? That's what you need to do, all right? That's what you need to do. So let's jump back to part 3 and practice this with these questions. So the first one here is, how do people usually hear about the latest news? Again, girls and guys, make sure you're repeating me. Repeat me for questions, repeat me for answers. How do people usually hear about the latest news? Give me a good answer that reflects the grammar, that reflects the strategy 1, the answer, the explanation with the example. Okay, let's see it. So let's see what you come up with for this first one. How do people usually hear about the latest news? Isra, that will not get you a high mark. 3 words recently from Facebook. You're going to get a 4 if you give that. Okay. Rumi says people usually listen to the news from various sources such as newspaper, internet, television, and from radio broadcasts. Rumi, you just made the mistake I was talking about earlier to students. You gave me a huge list of answers, and instead of going into detail, you're going to get an okay mark, maybe a 6, but you're not going to get an 8 because there's not enough detail in your answer. All right? Nowadays, people usually hear the latest news from social media. Sanim, all right, can you give me a personal example to back that up? Mohit says, okay. Suman says, in the past, people used to know about the news from television and newspaper. I didn't ask you about the past. I'm asking you about how do people usually hear about the latest news today? Okay. Kira says, people usually hear about the updated news through media such as TV, newspaper, and the internet. Kira, again, too much information, not enough depth. In part 3, you're going also for depth, not for breadth. This is a mistake in a lot of IELTS classes, is that teachers tell students, well, there are several different ways that people usually hear about the news. They are number one. No, please don't do that. Instead, get into some details, all right? Jod says, getting news nowadays would be easy from social media, Twitter. Just a few hours back, I came to know about an earthquake that happened in the northern part of India looking at Twitter on my cell phone. Jod, that's a level 8, 9 answer, okay? UK Sexy, same mistake. Too many different answers, not enough depth, okay? I would answer like this. Well, these days, people most often hear about fresh news from the internet using their smartphones. Just this morning, I read about the earthquake that happened in northern India on a Facebook post using my phone. Okay? So that would be a high-level answer, all right? I reflect the grammar of the question most often for the usually. I do a little bit of paraphrasing, fresh news, latest news, and I target just one explanation, which is probably the correct one. Most of us do get most of our news using the internet, either on our computer or even in more often situations on our smartphones. And then I back it up with a very clear personal example. That would be a high-level answer. So again, repeat after me. How do people usually hear about the latest news? Well, these days, people most often hear about fresh news from the internet using their smartphones. Just this morning, I read about the earthquake that happened in northern India on a Facebook post using my phone. Okay, that's a high-level answer. All right, I don't need to know about TV, the newspaper, and so on. If you can give me that answer, I'm sure you know the words newspaper, magazine, TV. This is a much more detailed answer, okay? That's what I'm looking for, all right? So try to follow this pattern, okay? Now here, you might want to give a few different reasons in your explanation because it's asking you about the different types. So try to answer this one. What different types of news do people mostly follow? What different types of news do people mostly follow? Give me a good answer for that question. What different types of news do people mostly follow? You can start it off if you need a little time to think about the answer. That's an interesting question. Just give me a moment to think. And then take 3-4 seconds, think about your answer. And then once you've thought about your answer, give it to me. So, what's your answer? Okay, it's okay to use a request like that to buy some time. It's fine. It's better than just staring and thinking. Show me that you need some time to think, and then give me the answer. So, Pachu, that's a very good start. You say, well, several different types of information that people keep up with are current affairs in politics, business, and sports. Very good. Okay, that's a good start. Well, certain kinds of info that people like to keep up with. Keep up with is follow in this case. It's the phrasal verb. Includes current affairs in politics, business, and sports. Okay, am I done? Should I stop there? Maybe not. What's a good way to finish that answer? Let's see what people have written up there. Well, everybody has their own preferences, but the majority of people nowadays wants to know about the news relating to the elections, which is coming at the end of this year. That's an okay answer, Jod. It's not great, but it's pretty good. Okay. UK Sexy says entertainment, dramas, celebrities, for instance, the latest fight between Nicki Minaj and Cardi something. Yeah, so you're giving me an example. Just make sure, UK Sexy, that you remember this is not a street conversation, so you need to reflect the question. That's an interesting question. Certain kinds of info that people like to keep up with, you need to include this part because it's not street language. You can't just give a straight answer, okay? It's better to include this. Gurpreet, this question is not asking you about what kind of news you keep up with, so that would not be a good answer. This is for Gurpreet Singh. You have to answer the specific question. If you're answering a different question, your mark really goes down. Hisped, I don't think you should go into this answer with it depends on age. Younger people prefer spicy, where older people prefer formal. It's an awkward answer, Hisped, and you would get a low mark for that. Okay? Isra Alani says, well, people often attend news about actors from all over the world. Other people are interested in geography and political news. It's okay, Isra. It's a little bit confusing. I'm not sure why you're talking about geography. I would have preferred that you tell me a little bit more about celebrities and why people like gossip. It's called gossip news. If you don't know the word gossip, I might stay with something a little bit more simple, like politics, business, sports. What would be a good way to finish this sentence? Girls and guys, in today, right now, what would be a good way? Let's see how you adapt your visualization, critical thinking. Okay, use the power of that beautiful brain. What is a big event happening in the world today that could very nicely finish this answer? I don't think I've seen anybody mention it. And I'm sure as soon as, yeah, there you go, Gurpreet. I just had to give you a little bit of information, and there you go, Gurpreet, Shahal, Jodi, you're all nailing it, right? In the exam, your brain has to work that way, okay? FIFA is a major world event happening right now. If you can tie that into one of your speaking questions, great. That shows that you're really there. You're mentally present. You're communicating, okay? So, and sports. For instance, right now, millions of people are following the FIFA World Cup as it unfolds. Okay, boom, you just pushed your score to a 9. All right, so repeat after me. What different types of news do people mostly follow? That's an interesting question. Just give me a moment to think. Well, certain kinds of info that people like to keep up with include current affairs in politics, business, and sports. For instance, right now, millions of people are following the FIFA World Cup as it unfolds. I myself watched the England versus Belgium game yesterday. That would be a level 9 answer, okay? So that would be good. You could have other points, health, entertainment, etc., but don't get lost in your explanation. Instead, always try to focus on more details, good examples. That's how you push your score up, okay? Humans are visual. If we can see what you're saying, if we can measure what you're saying with good quantitative language and examples, your score goes up and away all the way to 8.59. Yay! It's doable. It's possible. It's not about being a native speaker. If you look at the IELTS band score descriptions, Band 7, Band 8, Band 9, none of them say native speaker or anything like that. Okay? None of them do. Okay? Getting a 9 is not about being a native speaker. It's about being a good communicator using English. You need to practice that. Okay, so here are some more questions. Why do some people avoid learning about the news on a daily basis? How has the news changed in recent years? Present perfect. And then some more about positive thinking. So do you think positive thinking has an effect on physical health? What are some ways that a person can maintain a positive attitude? Can you explain? Can you think of any examples of positive thinking leading to positive action? I challenge you to answer these questions using the strategies that I showed you today. Okay, so again, answer, explain, example. You can send these to me and I will gladly give you feedback on what I think you would score for your answer, and that will help you gain perspective on where you are at in the IELTS. All right? Again, if you want lots and lots of help, don't be shy. Spend a couple dollars so you don't have to spend another $300 on doing the IELTS exam again. Join us on our website, aehelp.com for academic IELTS and gieltshelp.com for general IELTS, okay? And again, just a reminder to our sponsors, now is a good time. Please send me some emails about some requests for special topics for next week. We're going to make it so it's 2 classes a week are for sponsors and 3 classes are where everybody can chat, okay? So we really want to see some good suggestions from our sponsors. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. You can find out the price of our courses, Kishore, by going to our website. In low GDP countries, it's $19 US. India, I believe it's $10 US. High GDP countries like US, it's $59. So we adjust the price to the economic situation of countries, okay? All right, girls and guys, great effort today. I saw lots of fantastic answers. If they weren't great, there was definitely a few that had a good start to become a great answer, so keep working on it. Okay, you have beautiful brains. Use those brains. Use as much of your brain as you can. Use that visual part of your brain. This whole back quadrant called the occipital lobe makes up about a quarter, if not more, of your brain. It's for visualization. Use it. See the world around you. And keep practicing, okay? All the best for the rest of your day. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. It's a little bit earlier today than usual, so I'm pretty sure most of you are just getting ready for supper and some food. Thanks so much for watching. Bon appetit, good studies, and I will see you tomorrow. Please check the YouTube channel, subscribe to it for the class schedule. Bye for now, everyone.